Big part of the recovery effort involves helping the many Houstonians in need right now. The president and first lady stopped by the Houston Food Bank today. That's where we find our Melissa Correa. Melissa, how was the first family's visit?
Hey there, Mia. It was a whirlwind, from touring the largest food bank in America to talking with volunteers. The Bidens sure did invest a significant chunk of their Houston visit right here. When asked what he thought of the food bank, President Biden shouted, "Incredible, absolutely amazing." But based on the questions the Bidens asked their tour guides, the president wants to know how the federal government can do more to help food banks. These nonprofits have been the backbone of communities during this pandemic. The food bank last year served more than 100 million meals. Programs targeting children and the elderly have grown within the last 12 months. That's why Dr. Jill Biden spent time with educators as she packed food. An assistant principal from Humboldt ISD and Houston ISD's interim superintendent provided perspective. And then there were the kids. President Biden was drawn to siblings who were boxing up food. The president joked with the kids before they gave him hugs. Another volunteer talked to Mr. Biden about his son, Bo, who lost his battle with cancer. And the CEO of the food bank walked the president down warehouse aisles, explaining where the food supply comes from while breaking down the hit that the food bank took during and after last week's winter storm. The White House contacted the Houston Food Bank on Tuesday to set up today's visit, which comes less than a week after Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other members of Congress raised millions and volunteered here. AOC spotlighting the Houston Food Bank on her social media pages led to more donations, including one from the United Kingdom. And at a time when the Houston Food Bank is cranking out 800,000 pounds of food to help our neighbors each week, today's presidential visit sure does keep the need here top of mind. Mia?
It most certainly does. Keep those donations coming. Melissa Correa, thank you.